Tacos and shit. Okay, here comes a vid that I was kind of thinking I wasn't going to do. Someone asked me to look up this site here, and I just looked it up, and I didn't even go to their actual site there. I saw a few vids. I clicked on one. I listened to part of it. Over in the sidebar, of course, there's a bunch of them, and I clicked on that. And all I could really say was, well, she's not that bad, not really like bad enough to make a video on or something else. There's not rampant delusion going on here. But lo and behold, as you do, whenever you go to YouTube, after you've looked at a couple of people's videos over and over again, or different ones, they all of a sudden start showing up in your sidebar, and I saw this in the sidebar, so I clicked on it, and it goes to her site here, and you can see that she's got a bit of an issue here just with her main banner. It turned BLM into all BLM somehow. And of course, this rainbow effect has really been taken through the ringer, hasn't it? It was, well, for a couple of thousand years here, it's been a symbol of God and stuff, and we'll see that here later. But then it was taken on by different people at different times, and leading up into my age, I guess, it was hippies that had this idea going on, and it wasn't about gay people or anything like that whatsoever. And then that idea got taken into a red, green, blue, black, and white, all the colors of the world type situation. And then, then the gays took it over. And then now she's got that on there, so I guess she's LGBT, I'm not sure. But the main one that's on her site here is the one that I clicked on to lead to this. And it's a Mexican girl that's going to tell you that she's had some problems, and there's a bit of confusion. And then, of course, the girl here, Flower Tower, tries to make a response to it. So let's look at this a little more in depth, if we can, and closer up. I'm recording this ambiently, so hopefully it picks it up pretty well. But the question that's posed, or the name of the video, is actually, are Black Americans blackwashing, or do non-black people know they can attack us with no pushback? So here's another cognitive dissonance where they come out and say it's one of these two things, take your pick. Of course, you can't really take the second one, so here we go with the first again. But strangely, usually this type of thing that's fixing to be shown here is done to Caucasian civilizations, like the ancient North African Berbers, or that they knew Egypt existed, or that they were part of the Bible somehow, and so on. We'll get into that a little bit later, I guess, but most of those are all being claimed. But she has a problem even in Mexico now with them making claims about that. Let's just hear what she says.
Trend online for some Black Americans to try and blackwash Latino history. I've talked about it in my previous video. You'll hear everything from natives were Black, they weren't. This has been disproven so many times. To tacos are African. Menudo is 100% Mexican. I'm not angry at this person. Just tired of people trying to change our history and culture because they want to feel more relevant. Pozole and menudo are all derived from Latin America. Yes, I know there are Black Latinos, because for some reason people always point that out. However, they were from Africa, and Latino culture in certain areas has more African influence than other areas. But menudo and pozole and tacos and a lot of other things do not derive from Africa. So when I say blackwashing, it is a trend of Black Americans to try and blackwash Latino history. And I have to say this because some people will sit there and try and nitpick everything I say to make it sound racist.
I'm sorry too. I'm probably gonna have to slow this down on her, because once she gets going, well, hopefully y'all could hear that pretty good. I mean, it did get a little fast there and a little repetitious and things like that a little bit, but what we're going to look at here is her response. Here she is in this different hair hat, Again, if you look through her videos, you can see her change different hair hats to other ones, but you won't ever have her natural hair on there. That's just a side subject to what's going on here. But she's going to first claim that she's confused, and then she's going to call her a bitch. And as normal here, let me see if I can turn this up and get it a little better. And then as normal, it seems like when things like this happen, you'll find that she's going to say a couple of lies, try to disqualify something, then try to shunt and talk about a totally separate subject. But then after being confused at first and not knowing what which anybody was even could be talking about, she breaks it down and talks about hoteps and actually calls them out and so on. But so suddenly she does know what she's talking about, but then somehow seems confused. And I guess she's talking about the difference between Latin black admixed people versus ones in America. I don't know. There's just a lot of confusion in any of this that's going on here. Let's see what she's got to say and see if I can stop it at the right points.
What the hell is Pozole and Manuzole or whatever the fuck she said? What black?
It's Apazole and Menudo. You can tell by their names they sound somewhat Spanish, but I believe menudo comes from Spaniards and it's making a stew. I've actually had it before, but the other one is made out of hominy grits, or hominy if you will, and that has to do with corn and maize if I'm not mistaken, and it's believed to have been a dish that was pre-Columbian but then added to a little bit afterwards and so on. But of course none of this has to do with people that were recent sub-Saharans or in the Americas, but they do all the time want to make claims. Now the problem is she's probably heard of the other claims, and she's going to mention some of them too here eventually, after feigning ignorance at first, and then we'll see that she understands what it's about, but then tries to play off, and then there's a victim card thrown out in the middle of all this. But let's just see what she's got.
Black American is laying claim to this. I'm confused. I ain't never heard no black American nowhere talk about, yeah, we admitted Pozole and Menuzo. Bitch, what? Maybe you talking about like maybe the Afro Latinas are saying that. Maybe they're.
If you notice, you just called her a bitch, but of course that's just an instant topic or a tactic, along with a few other things they try to pull off, which I just described earlier, and trying to lie and then deflect and do things like that. Whenever she eventually comes clean that she does kind of know what's going on and who's doing this type of thing. Even calls them hoteps, which is the people that try to pretend that they knew Egypt existed, and that really, no, they weren't recent pre-Neolithic primitives in West Sub-Saharan Africa that didn't know the world existed. They were somebody else other than who they were. Now they've picked everybody, including the Vikings, the Romans, people in the Bible, Egypt, ancient North Africans. We were Ethiopians as opposed to themselves. Just we were Nubians. It goes crazy. You've ever heard anything except for like Mexico? In fact, they do try to claim that they were the original Indians or Amerindians of the Americas too. Some of that is to say that they were never slaves, but also people say that that's them trying to deflect from the idea that they were recent primitives. So that causes a problem in itself too. But let's go on here and see if she understands a little bit more as she starts talking. It just comes to her.
They're saying like, oh, like their influences on those dishes or whatever. I don't know, but how the hell black Americans get into the mix? Like, if some.
How they get into the mix is that they claim that those are from black Americans somehow. Wewas tortillas and shit. I didn't ever hear tacos, which she mentioned already there at the first part of it, much less. So now we've deflected off the two things that we really could make fun of talking tacos and things, but she goes off of menudo and this other, and then feigns to not be able to even say the word correctly through the whole thing. Like she couldn't have just gone back and got the word and then repeated it to herself enough to where she could pull it off. Part of the not being able to understand is mispronouncing things and pretending to not know what's going on here. But let's continue.
Somebody is saying that these dishes are African. That ain't Black American. So, like, Africans do a whole bunch of shit Black Americans don't do. Okay, fufu is African. That ain't Black American. Fried chicken is Black American. That ain't African. The two things that
Well, the two things aren't synonymous and they're not flippable, but at the same time, Black Americans are recent Africans. And so it's nothing that they came up with on themselves. In fact, pork, chicken, beef were all domesticated by Caucasians. So when you find out menudo's made from the head meat, usually, of a goat or a cow or a pig, and then you say, well, where did that ingredient come from? What were they using before then? Was it capybara? Was it this? Was it that? So it's not really the same dish anymore. But also to have claimed right in the middle of that, we're going to go with ding, big lie number one. That's African American fried chicken. This is where if you said that as a white person, it would be racist somehow. Somehow, just pointing out something that they like, that chicken, but then they've taken that to the idea that it's theirs, as opposed to the idea that chicken was domesticated by Caucasians years ago. And hey, in Pompeii, they found this buffet part, and you can get a baked chicken, or you can get one that's fried. Yeah, and it's got like olive oil, I guess, with it, and supposed to the grease that we use and stuff in ours too. But rendering lard and making grease and stuff was Caucasians too. You know, just like peanut butter goes back way before and everything, but I don't guess we have to go there that this time. Let's just go on.
are not interchangeable. So if somebody walking around talking about pozole menudo or whatever is African, that's not a Black American. That's an African person. Like, what?
Exactly. Like what? Here she is in another hairhead or a weave. Strangely, here it shows her actually flipping off, I guess, Rainbow Jesus. Now, maybe she's flipping off a whatever Jesus form that they showed there, which I guess some people could understand in the modern days. But like I said just earlier, the rainbow concept comes with Noah and da 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 and everything. So that's and it goes back thousands of years. You can't turn around and go, well, now all of a sudden Jesus is so and so. He's gay wearing a dress with a rainbow on it or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of confusing.
I am so confused by this because you know I'm from Detroit. There's a whole Mexican town on the southwest side. I go
There's a whole Mexican town on that side. Is there a whole black part of town? Let's continue.
over there to get my tacos. Okay, I go to Armando's. I get the fried flour taco. Come on, ooh, oh my god, like, but I don't be ordering no pozole and menudo. What the hell even is that? Like,
Yeah, you could look it up if you wanted to. It would be pretty easy. You're able to spell it in the title that's here and stuff and see that it's stews and stuff. And if you actually went into true Mexican town, or if you actually went into true Mexico, it's a real common dish. If you said menudo, there used to be a boy band named Menudo a long time ago whenever I was young. I don't know if they kept it going. I think they replaced the members as they got older and kept doing that kind of idea for a little while. But menudo's a dish. It's kind of famous and stuff. If you don't know about something, you don't have to feign ignorance. But she's about to figure it out. Let's continue.
like, what? Yo, Black Americans don't even eat that. Like, why would we be trying to lay claim to that? We don't even eat that, bro. I will say, like,
I bet there's some Latin mixed or in Mexico mixed blacks that'll tell you that their favorite thing is menudo. Yeah, I bet there's some in America too, definitely so. If they've got Mexican friends and have ever tried it, they're probably all about it. Yeah, that's real good. Problem is really that black people are claiming this. You know, watermelon doesn't come from them, chicken doesn't come from them, anything that you try to put on them, even peanut butter, as we talked about, doesn't come from George Washington Carver. They're making nut butter thousands of years ago. That girl at the first, though, you can tell she's got a high Spaniard influence on it. For I live here in Texas, and I've seen a bunch of Mexicans and a scope of them, and some of them still look kind of Inca Aztec. You've seen them too. They're generally shorter also, and even the women. I used to know a whole family that come in, and I could raise my arm at 5'10" at best, here standing up and raise my arm and go over all of them. So they're not real tall, kind of like, Orientals are just now starting to really get some tall or height into them. But hell, let me offend everybody while we're talking about this. Let's just continue, for she's fixing to all of a sudden understand, where this kind of comes from.
Like a lot of y'all have bones to pick with. For example, in this case, probably Afro Latinas and Africans. But it's easier if you just target Black Americans, because you know that the Black diaspora will take your side if you target us, right? So,
Victim. But in reality here, she's being questioned repeatedly and made a video about it that you're responding to, where it's Black Americans claiming Wewas Tacos, Wewas Menudo, Wewas Ipazoli.
So what probably actually happened here is that Afro Latinas were saying, oh, there are a lot of African influences on Posel and Manuzo, because our ancestors came from Africa. And
just because your ancestors come from Africa doesn't mean that you had influence on a dish, that the spices and ingredients of don't come from where you were, or you yourself in any way. See, that becomes an issue with the chicken thing just from just a minute ago or whatever.
And whatever. Okay, now how the hell Black Americans got into this mix? I don't know, but like I said, y'all attacked us because we the safe
Victim.
folks to attack, right? Now,
Victim.
and this is my thing. There are a couple of like hotep Black Americans who be like, the original natives who Black. We are indigenous to Turtle Island. So
Now, so here we go with that second at least lie out of here. Really, it's been more like 7, but let's continue. Here, she all of a sudden realized, because she said the word hotep, so she's trying to call the people that claim themselves as Amerindians as hoteps. But no, I've actually seen them have debates where which one's right. Was we the Amerindians, or were we the Caucasian Egyptians? You can see the same thing with the Hebrew Israelites, where were we the Caucasian biblical people here over in the Middle East, or were we the Caucasian Egyptians? That's their two choices. They don't have a choice of, well, we were West Sub-Saharans that didn't know any of this existed. They're not going to put that out there as a possibility. She'll even tell you in a minute to try to deflect of reality. They try to claim that, well, we were from Turtle Island. No, that's not true either. Just like they weren't from Haiti, which I had a guy tell me on one of my videos that Black people come from Haiti. And it's like, just because the French left slaves there when the bad thing happened and ended it and just left it alone, does not mean that you come from Haiti. Well, could I call myself Haitian now? Yeah, and we'd understand what you're talking about too, but let's not continue. Hey, Dominican Republic, the other half of that really isn't falling apart, is it? As much. But let's continue.
I'm not going to argue with her on that, because that's a fact. That's definitely a thing, right?
So now she just also followed the other lie up with that one right there. We're not going to argue with her because that's a fact. This is, I guess, trying to say that we was Turtle Islands. We was the ancient Amerindians. I don't know. And is it just a fact? The hoteps say it. I'm not sure. I'm confused now. But it's only come up because I've been blindsided by a couple of quick lies here. Let's try to catch it again. What does she say?
Said y'all attack us because you know we the safe folks to attack, right?
Victim.
Now this is my thing. There are a couple of like hotep black Americans who be like the original natives who black. We are indigenous to Turtle Island, so I'm not gonna argue with her on that because you know that's a fact. That's definitely a thing, right? So
No, wrong. It's a thing that they claim they were the Amerindians, but as already explained, that's been totally blown out of the water, of course, but out of jealousy and some kind of fit that they're having, and they try to pimp themselves out. They can't say we was primitives brought into the modern world. They don't want that, so they're willing to lie about anything. In fact, make themselves into clowns trying to lie about it. But she all of a sudden remembers, well, there are these Hotepi people. They're the ones that go around claiming that we was anything but who we were, and then have a problem with it. Funny thing is, you can catch them with the idea that they try to claim stuff like this is from Africa, and then you go, didn't you say that you weren't from Africa, that you were from here? So how is it your influence and you called it African? And it just explodes in front of them, but they don't care. But they'll get mad if you point it out.
So I would not be surprised if they were saying like, oh, you know, like a lot of Latino culture came from Black Americans because technically the first natives was us, yada yada yada. But this
Now, this is where she admits that they would probably, maybe the thought going in their head is, if it was the lie was true that we were really the Amerindians, then somehow we would have been the first Americans. That's an idea. They want to pull that off. You can see her looking up in the sky here like, ta-da. No, the idea of that's really disgusting, because Turtle Island doesn't go back too long with people's inhabitation off of that and being an islander people, which involves boats. So we probably don't even need to go there. But in Columbus, when he found them, he was like, these people have darker than skin than mine, and all of a sudden they go, oh well, that's got to be and stuff, and you can see darker Mediterranean and darker skin on these people, but black people want to associate, well, if they have darker skin, then we was all these things that just really self-expose themselves, but they can't seem to quit, because if they did, they feel like they'd be admitting that they were recent non or pre-Neolithic primitive people that didn't know any of this existed, and then that's real embarrassing for them. Sad thing is this is the truth, and therefore they're embarrassing themselves every time they try to lie like this. She's even trying to be an apologetic for the situation, and suddenly remembers there's these Hotep people. Let's continue on.
is my thing. Those Hotep type Black Americans who say that the natives were, you know, like they were black or whatever, they don't claim those natives as Africans. They make a clear distinction. They say, oh, we're indigenous to Turtle Island. We did not come from Africa. That's what they say, right? So if those
So what they try to say is, we weren't recent primitives, we weren't slaves, we were Amerindians. Well, they're primitives too, but not as primitive. This is a big step up for them to lie about it. And then, of course, they want all the extra things that Indians are given for free for what happened and stuff. And because they want to play the victim, they're like, well, victim, well, I seen some pictures of Indians that are darker than a sheet of paper, so that's got to mean something. Well, here's this white ranch hand over here. It's out in the sun all day, and whoa. Also, the lighter a black person is more admix that's into them, or it actually catches somehow, and then you'll get a real light kid out of a group of them somehow. But we don't need to go there really. But she's still somewhat confused now. Now, she caught the hoteps, but you can see she's going to try to look over here and see if she can figure out a way of calling that out and turn it back around to where the Spanish person that's realized that all these black people are trying to claim her culture. Oh, it's got to be her fault, right? It's her problem. She must be Ray Ray.
Hotep as Black Americans were saying that the original natives are, you know, like black or whatever, right? And that's why you old Polo and Medusa or whatever the hell it's called to us, they will not be calling it an African dish, right? So you get what I'm saying? The math not quite math in here, right?
Yeah, you can definitely tell when they try to tell you something like that, and then they tell you it's African people. It's just self-exposing. Because I thought you never been in Africa. You were here. You were the Amerindians and shit. It's hilarious. I've seen them self-expose themselves hundreds of times, and it really makes no sense. In fact, she points it out right here, even though she's trying to be apologetic to it somehow. Let's go a little farther.
The entire premise behind them saying that the original natives were black is the fact that they don't believe we came from Africa, right? So they don't believe in transatlantic slavery or anything like that. They believe that we are indigenous to here, right? So
Right. So you can see this delusion where they don't want to be who they are, and they want to lie about it and say they were somebody else. And that gives you problems because that somebody else is somebody and not them. And it definitely doesn't have anything to do with them. So that becomes a problem. And of course, some of them have drifted away from Egypt because they realize that's not true and so on. If you ever watch the hoteps have a debate between the black Hebrew Israelites and the Egyptians, the Hebrew Israelites will expose the Egyptian one and actually show they were Caucasians, but then the Egyptian ones turn around and expose it and they tell you white people were all. And the fact is both of them just put each one of them back in sub-Saharan Africa where they didn't know any of this existed. But they have to be included, right? They're so used to being pandered to. I mean, come on, won't you lie for them and let them live a lie? Wouldn't that be sad?
So if those people are saying that the original natives are black and that's why Polo and Medusa is due to us or whatever, they will not be calling those African dishes, right? So you can tell what actually happened here is that she was having a disagreement with some Afro Latinas, and these Afro Latinas that she was having a disagreement with some Afro Latinas, and these Afro Latinas were saying, well, we came from Africa, and that's why you see the African influences on Polo and Medusa, right? Again.
But, but, but. But the problem here is that she knows what it is. She's already called out the hoteps at least 3 times, is it? That she suddenly realizes where this problem comes in at, and that they might have been some Africans. She's just self-exposing herself and these people trying to say, well, they messed up in the head because they say it like this, and that just catches them out right there. So she's trying to call them out here in the same deal, but say, oh, that's Hotep people. So here we have Mexicans being Hotepped out to. Who else can they start claiming? Well, you'd be surprised, but they've already done a lot of other claiming too. They were the original Oriental Japanese people. Oh, if you haven't heard that one's fantastic too. And then it's on the Greatest Hits album. And then there's Wewas the darker skinned people in Lower India, and white man came down there and and did what they did to India. And I go, well, you're not related to them whatsoever and didn't know they existed either. Just like you're not related to the Khoisan or any Nilotics or Nubians or anything like that and didn't really know they existed either. But you keep trying to talk about you as all these other people that you didn't know existed. It's real self-exposing. It's kind of sad, and it's looked at in a different way too, like the Spanish girl said there at the very start of it. But let's continue.
And again, she knows it's easier for her to just attack black Americans, right? Because
so we as victims, we as being attacked whenever she calls somebody out for lying, and then she has already agreed to, oh, that's probably hoteps and stuff, yeah. So there's no consolence for that, but suddenly here we are, victim number 3. I'm attacked again. It's easy to attack blacks. They're just up for attack. Not that blacks aren't making attacks verbally, if whatever you will, that they were this people and they were that people, disrespecting everybody that they try to claim, and themselves in doing so. But people let it keep going on because they're making fools of themselves. Same reason whenever they try to rhyme and dance to a beat, and then they think they're tough, they tug their prick in public and stuff, and people let that still go on. Michael did it, ha ha ha, and they let that go on because that really shows something right there. And you can't get out of it now that you realize how sad that looks. It's going to be in every rap video for years and years and years to come. Damn near every one of them. Let's continue.
Because then the entire black diaspora will take her side and say, oh, yeah, 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 we hate black Americans. Go ahead on with your business, Becky. With your...
Yeah, there are other black people in other countries that do not like the fact that black Americans lie about being all these other people. In fact, when you go back to Africa, they'll tell you that they captured and sold their own people off. White people didn't go running around with a big net trying to catch anybody. And blacks don't like to hear that. And they want to hear that they built something big or they did something that they really didn't even know existed. It becomes a real issue, and then they get real mad about it and start making all kinds of claims. She calls them hoteps here, but there's got to be discrepancy there because hoteps are claiming they were in Egypt, but then New Hebrew Israelites is a different thing entirely, and we was Amerindians or we was Olmecs are two different things entirely. We was the Vikings would be another one. All these claims, we could put them all in a box of these are the lies, but instead you probably want to separate them out a little bit here.
Excuse me, my bad. Becasita, she a white Latina. She not just a regular white.
She's a regular Latina. It's just she has a higher Spaniard type mix and a definite lack of any Negroid mix, and so she's going to try to point that out as if they're supposed to all have some Negroid admix. What?
She Becasita, right? So these people know what they're doing. It's very calculated, right? Black Americans don't eat polo and medusa or whatever. Whoever you were talking to who was trying to lay claim to that was not a goddamn black American, right? But a lot of you all,
a lot of you all. Some people have very, very little self-awareness.
Pretend that any black person you converse with is a black American. And this is not just a non-black person thing. I've noticed that a lot of black people do this too. Anytime they have a disagreement with somebody, they say, oh, you must be a black American, which...
No, she's going to tell you the statistics here, I think, pull them out of her ass. So she either looked it up somewhere, so she's able to look up things like what menudo is. But you can't look up things correct off of it. But you know, you might misjudge black person whenever you see him because you think it's just a regular black American stuff, and then you'll say something to him. Within 2 words, you generally have the idea, oh, this is one of those Nigerian type people. Oh, okay. Why would we look at that any different? Oh, there's a difference. First of all, you're not going to try to play the victim in front of me. You're probably actually proud to be here all of a sudden and things like that too. I know a couple of them and stuff, and they're of the nicest folks I have a daily encounter with whenever I have that encounter.
Statistically makes no fucking sense because there are only 40 million black Americans. There's more than 1 billion Africans, plenty of millions of Caribbeans, etc., etc., etc. Like
Statistically, Jamaicans are not anything different than the West Sub-Saharan Africans with a little more admix. Now, all of Africa has about 20 to 30% Caucasian admix to them, and there's some in America that have even more admix to it. Everybody wants to claim different things about that, like they want to claim that they were the Amerindians or that their admix is from Amerindians. It's funny, but that there's a black host that was trying to track back people's lineages. He did it to some white people and stuff too, but he's black himself. I forget what his name is now. It's got a common name like Scott. So I'm not going to, misname him, I guess, and go on. But in doing so, he got a bunch of black people that were claiming that they were a high part, half Indian, all this type of stuff. And this can train Chris Rock and Morgan Freeman and so on, and this was a trend for black people to do because a lot on the shows they could find where it went back to and so on, and they could, kind of feign that they freak out on it and all that type of stuff, and then where it kind of dies off in their history, and they did that to white people too, and say, hey, you're related to this person here, it's kind of distantly, but here it is right here in the book, we found it, and so on. So it's your great-great-great-grandfather, his brother, and so weird things like that go on, but whenever they tried to show them that, they said, no, you don't have any Indian, no, you don't have any Indian, no, you don't have any Indian, no, you don't have any Indian. It was funny, it went across the board with I don't know how many of them, And then also in that fact, he was talking about them, and why do you think that you had Indian? Until, oh, well, they've been always saying that we had Indian, and that's where we got this good hair from, or this, that, and the other, and stuff, and everything. And then I think it was Morgan Freeman that said it's better to say that you had an Indian rape you than white people rape you. And it's like, maybe if nothing was a rape really that was going on there, you know, maybe you can get past that point. We don't want to start talking about who's been raping who and so on. We probably should leave that alone. But that was a defensive kick mechanism, you know, where you're like, I'm going to take and blame this. There we go. I'm going to put this bad statement in there. It's like, you know, if they flinch and they say slavery or racist. If they just really lose in an argument, it gets terrible, they just flinch. Let's try to finish this off all right. See what she's got out the end here.
Most black people are not black American, but y'all have this weird thing where
most black people in America are black Americans, and the other ones eventually will be. So what if they're from Nigeria later than earlier? You seem to have an issue with this, and they themselves have an issue with when you come to visit, they don't like you so much because you lie about things and they tell you all kinds of stuff. Some black comedians have actually shown some stuff that's pretty revealing, but I guess I can't show that in the clip here either. I'll be in trouble, but let's continue.
y'all pretend that any black person you disagree with is a black American because, again, it's safe to attack us. So,
again, victim? It's really an issue here. I didn't think she claimed a victim that many times. Where are we at? 4th year and we were attacked? Whereas this girl feels like she's being attacked, and it finally did to the point where she thought, even though in a modern politically correct, I'll go ahead and say something, and when she does, this is what you get back. It's terrible, terrible, disgusting to watch.
you know good and well, you wouldn't talk to no black American about no Polo and Medusa.
You know good and well. Well, Aunt Jemima, please. Why do you go off in that little attitude like, this is going to help me if I do like that? Here's another way I can put it on them. Listen, this girl thinks that it's black Americans that are doing it because they're hotep names and things like that probably, or other things that are said that you're probably not aware of. Maybe you ought to look at the thread. But just a minute ago, you yourself admitted, oh, there are these hoteps, yeah, and they do claim stuff like exactly what you're saying. But then if they claim African, they're wrong, so you got them beat. But then she starts trying to apologize again and claim victim 4 times.
You know good and well, but like I said, these people are very calculated.
Speaking of being very calculated, here's a new hair hat. Bet she likes them glasses. Oh no, she's one of those mask wearers. In fact, this is a recent vid, so nobody knows why she's doing that. Well, you can say it's a picture from a couple of years ago, whenever this was the trend going on, whenever the box on itself said, oh, it doesn't protect from these things. So they started calling it a little something different. So here we see the issue. Even whenever she's trying to get out of it, she victims and all these other things that goes along with it. It's pretty disgusting, but I guess what I wanted to point out here, the reason I did one on her in the first place is, well, you can see it's happening to Mexican people too, and they finally got tired enough to say about it, but of course that's an attack. You can't say anything to black people, right? Or it's an attack. There's no critiquing them. Well, then they're just screwed. Well, they claim they want it that way. Yeah, who's fixing that all up for them too? It's amazing. It's amazing how much we pander to these people as they have all these problems and these ideas. No one wants to talk about that at all. Or unwed mothers or anything else that's an issue. Want to talk about how bad white people is because they're propping them up daily. You see it, they're constantly pandering to them, but I guess that's for a whole nother video. But everybody listening, even black people, know exactly what I'm talking about. Some people like to live off of it. Peace.